Good morning, everybody. I can see people walking into the room. And I see a whole slew of people on the Zoom board. So I want to welcome you all, and I also want to welcome those of you who will be watching throughout the week. There's hundreds of you. Some of you send us messages, many of you do actually, and a lot of you want to talk with us, and all that requires is to give a call to the center, and Jimmy will set up an appointment. And we're happy to give any kind of encouragement we can, any kind of referral that's necessary. What else? Sometimes it just a simple phone call can make a difference to point someone in a direction of change. Before I get going today, I want to acknowledge somebody in particular. Jean Drews has been a friend of this center for 4 years, and she's also been a great supporter of the ministries I've been involved with for over 20 years. Every week, I have at least a 45-minute discussion with Jean, and that's really the way it is with most of the leaders here. A lot of time behind the scenes. They'll share their wisdom, they'll share their poetry, they'll share their ideas, and most of all, they support me. Jean, this past couple days, had a massive stroke, and I'm very sad to announce it. And because she's singularly one of the people who've been really doing the most to keep a few of us up and going during the past year. She has lots of connection problems when she's getting on Zoom. But she's always there afterwards discussing the entire lesson and how it can be improved and what can be done. And so let's keep her in our prayers. She's still with us, though she's I don't know what you want to say. You know, her body's trying to heal right now. We'll put it that way. Special prayers for Jean. I'm going to do more prayer work with her, for her. And so there are people like that at our center who are leadership, who quietly are doing a lot of work. Every week, it's at least a half an hour, 45-minute phone call, sometimes together, sometimes singularly. But we want to honor her right now and pray for her. Today I have a couple things to read before we get into the lesson itself. So again, if you're tuning in, this is a good morning to First Center, First Church of Religious Science in New York City. This is the great first church that's been around since, I think, 1949, teaching science of mind, new thought to at least a couple generations of interested people. This reading, which is one of several today, is entitled, "There Must Be a Gift in Here Somewhere." All it takes is a shift in perspective to recognize and appreciate life's gifts, even when, and especially when, what you are experiencing seems like anything but a gift. There was that old expression, there must be a pony in here somewhere. So our challenge is to really do our best to try to see the good, even when the good isn't readily, it isn't in plain sight. It's always there, right? And the reading goes on. I love that quote. I'm inspired by it. I'm encouraged by it. I'm also a bit annoyed by it. These three little words, all it takes, suggest something quite simple, don't they? All it takes is a flick of the wrist to shoo something away. All it takes is typing a keyword into your phone and your question is answered. All it takes is giving your children that look and they know they're in trouble, right? That's all it takes. Easy. But all it takes is a shift in perspective to recognize and appreciate life's gifts, even when what you're experiencing seems like anything but a gift when you're going through it. It isn't necessarily always so easy, is it? So it might not be easy, but it's true. It's all it really takes is a shift in consciousness. And we all say, Louise Hay used to say it's all very simple, but having that shift in consciousness where you see someone as being really good and wonderful, when you're really all caught up in being angry about them, that's all it takes is, it seems like a miracle to have that shift, but this is, the work we do here. Carolyn Myss wrote that we need to develop our symbolic sight, which means to develop the ability to probe beneath the surface of things, beneath the experience, to see how that whole thing is woven into the tapestry of the divine design. So to practice the presence and see the good in situations where you're feeling wronged and you're feeling life is messy and all that, all it takes is to see the good, right? So that's a big challenge, right? We'll get into that in today's lessons more. The question comes up, do you have a situation right now that's challenging or difficult? Could you entertain the possibility that if you develop your symbolic sight around it, then something beautiful will be revealed to you if you get out of your story? If you develop your symbolic sight around it, that something beautiful will be revealed. It may reveal itself over time, but if your sight is, true, you will find the gift in everything. The affirmation from this reading for today is, today I develop my symbolic sight, my spiritual vision, and I find the gift in everything, without exception, and so it is. Then I moved on to this morning as I was contemplating Jean and different things and trying to, wanting to put myself in the right place. I went back to I have many books that I love. This one was Conversations with God, the second book, and I thought I'd share a couple things with you today. This book, by the way, is a good book to acquire. It's a personal journal, so each little, 2-sentence reading will have a place for you to jot and journal your thoughts. Let's go with a couple to see if they might help you for today. It's for the entry that was in June. It's, you assume that man or mankind will always make what you call the selfish choice. I will tell you that man is capable of making the highest choice. Yet I will also tell you that the highest choice is not always the choice which seems to serve another. So then you would write about that and think about that. We're capable of making the highest choice. It doesn't always even seem like it's the nice choice, but we're capable of doing it. The next reading, and I'm going to read, I think, about 4. When your life purpose is very high, so will your choices be. You won't be in the mess. When your purpose is high, you're going to not go there. You're not going to go to the places that other people routinely go. And as you learn through Louise Hay, and you learn through this teaching, putting yourself first does not mean being what you term selfish. It means being self-aware. Now that's something that we could journal on or think about a little bit. A couple more. The next day, it's only through the exercise of the greatest freedom that the greatest growth is achieved or even possible. Humankind was created to be free. We're here to express life. Some of us have been living a small life since the time we're little girls and boys, and we're afraid to express life. So it's only through the exercise of the greatest freedom, you break away from all that stuff. Only through the exercise of this freedom that the greatest growth is achieved, or even possible. If all you're doing is following someone else's rules and what they're saying, then you have not grown enough, or you've not grown, you've simply obeyed. So we're here not to be people who are obeying necessarily. I always loved Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, God help us when a thinker is let loose upon the planet. Nothing is safe. It's like a conflagration that's gone out into the countryside. because that person knows that he or she is a God entity in and of themselves, and they're here to express life and to do it with, authority and excitement. Most people don't live that way. Most people try to wear similar clothes, fit in, not be noticed, play small. But that's not people who are really involved in this teaching. People involved in this teaching are really, they're really trying to wake up and discover that they're part of this divine thing and that we have powers to use. So that reading is all about learning to exercise your freedom. And you might pick up the book one day, and you might journal about that, write about it, think about it. The next great question: are you nurturing your soul? Are you even noticing it? Do you know that you have one? Are you healing your soul with your day-to-day living and the way you think? Or are you hurting your soul? Are you a giver? Do you give freely of yourself and your joy? Are you a lifter? Are you growing? Or are you contracting? Are you withering? Are you full of criticism? Or are you full of appreciation? Are you expanding and giving? Life loves a giver. Or are you contracting and being critical and judgmental? What are you doing? Are you nurturing your soul? And I think I'll do one more. When was the last time you felt your soul being expressed, like vibrantly and with excitement, and just your whole body was alive? When was the last time you cried with joy? When's the last time you wrote a poem or sang some songs or made music? When's the last time you danced in the rain or baked a pie or painted something or made something fresh from scratch? When's the last time you swam naked? When's the last time you walked at sunrise or played a harmonica? When's the last time you had a good friend and you just talked until dawn with excitement or made love for hours? Made love on the beach or in the woods? Communed with nature. When's the last time you really searched for and experienced and communed with what he calls God, or we call spirit? When's the last time you did any of this so you could let your soul feel like it's been expressed and expanded? So those are some questions. This is a really delightful book. Again, Conversations with God, book 2. It's one of those books that I go back to, like many books. If you get involved in this teaching, you'll have dozens and dozens of really wonderful material to refer to. So we go on with this morning, getting to know you. So for those of you who have signed on again, welcome, good morning. For those of you who are here, it's great to see you. Welcome once again to First Church of Religious Science, New York City, home of Raymond Charles Barker, Dr. Stuart Grayson, Wade Adkisson, Louise, a lot of great people. So in the talk, Getting to Know You, which I think initially came from Dr. Grayson, though I'm not sure at this point because it's been used in so many ways. So getting to know you is what we're doing here in the teachings. We're waking up, we're getting to know who we are and what we are. So again, I want to welcome those of you on the Zoom call and in person. It's great if you can send us your message in the chat and a way to connect. That way you can get our e-letters and you can be more involved in the center. If you're interested in supporting the center, please do. Somehow we get by with the help of our friends, the gifts of the people who watch us. There's nothing we really do here that we charge for, except for perhaps an accredited class here and there. But most of the classes we teach are free, and just about everything we do, we offer scholarships on. So this ought to be a place that's affordable to everyone so we can help everyone. And again, we're available for phone calls for anyone who needs help, prayer work, affirmative prayer. So take advantage of what we have. Jimmy spoke of Simon. Simon has been a person who I've known for a while, a few years, and he's watched us on social media for quite some time and a regular contributor, and he's been a part of things more and more in recent months. And Simon has a lot of gifts with dealing with people who have challenges, and it's a similar track that I've been on, and he's doing this spiritual support group now on, what day is it? Wednesdays at 7. And it's a men's group, and all different kinds of folks come with different kinds of challenges, and it's a great entry point towards self-healing. These folks maybe haven't yet heard of religious science. They might have heard of Louise Hay, but they're coming in to learn and get guidance and support. So he's a master in many ways, and he relates to people. So if you know anybody that's going through anything that you think that they could benefit, get a hold of Jimmy or myself, and we'll talk to you more. We'll send you the links. That's an ongoing weekly event. So let's go into what Ernest Holmes would say. I've spoken about a few things already. Ernest Holmes was the founder of religious science. I think everybody here knows that, or if you don't, I'm going to tell you. He wrote the book, he wrote several books, quite honestly. And the book that most of us refer to, I don't have it in my hands here, but it's the textbook, The Science of Mind. And if you are a real, I don't want to say serious, but an interested person in the teaching, you would get a copy of the book, though I would not get this edition. I would get the edition that has the foreword by Gene Houston. And because that edition, if you get that edition, you can acquire a concordance, which is basically an index where you can look up different things that might be of interest to you. It'd be very helpful. If you're real new, and I would suggest other books first, but you can call us at the center, we'll tell you more. The Science of Mind textbook, though, was the foundation of most of the work that he and others have done after him, including Louise Hay. In the beginning of the book, he had a beautiful poem, a welcome poem, which used to be read at First Church every week. And I always think of Theodora Parker when I think of the words, because I think she always did it when I first got here. And she said, "Peace be unto thee, stranger. Enter and be not afraid. The table is laid and the fruits of life are spread before thee. All is yours, and you are welcome." And she used to say another thing too: "I've placed within you all that you need for your good and your keeping," or something like that. I can't remember exactly. So everything is here for you, and we come in here every week to remind you of it and to have you know that it's all here within you, and we will teach you how to access it and utilize it. So let us celebrate the presence of one another here today. You can kind of like nod to each other if you're in the room, or smile, or those of you who are on the call. I mean, we're all here together in this one conversation, this lesson, and we can say to each other in our minds, good morning, or namaste, which is another greeting which would suggest, I see the good in you, I see the spirituality, I see the God in you. Getting to know you. There's a poem. If you think you're beaten, you're beaten. If you think you dare not, then you don't. If you like to win, but you think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you'll lose, you you've lost. You're lost. For out of the world we find success begins with a person's will. It's all about our state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. If you got to think high to rise, I've said that wrong. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever achieve the prize. Life's challenges, life's battles don't go away. Always go to the stronger or the faster person. But sooner or later, the person who wins is the person who thinks he or she can. And that was an old one by Walter Wintle. We all in our teaching are all about expansion and growth and embracing life. And there was a song that embraces that idea. A couple of years ago, we had Bobby Harte sing it. Unfortunately, we can't do that anymore because every time we do anything like that, over Zoom and Facebook Live and all that, there's copyrights and everything. But the song that we had read a few years ago came from The Greatest Showman, and I know most of you know these lyrics, and I'm not going to read them all to you, but I'll read a few. I can't sing. Well, I can, but I'd still be breaking a copyright. So the song, you wouldn't want to hear me sing it anyway. I'm not. Judith says, give it a try. You got to be kidding me. The lyrics go, I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, because we don't want your broken parts. That reminds me of Lady Gaga, who had a song, Born This Way. Baby, I'm born this way. So we come in with a lot of, stuff. But that song from The Greatest Showman, I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, because we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say. No one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know there's a place for me, for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words that are said want to cut me down, I'm going to send I'm going to send a flood going to drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, because I'm in this teaching, right? Because here I come, and I'm getting rid of all that stuff. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen. This is me. This is a person who's learning to love him or herself. We're bursting through the barricades, the old learning, the old tapes, and we're reaching for the sun. Look out with this teaching. Here I come. And I know that I deserve your love. There's nothing I'm not worthy of. This is me. Look out, because here I come, and I'm marching on to the beat that I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, no matter how I look, right? I'm not scared to be seen. I make no apologies. This is me. If you've ever felt rejected, and I know most of you have in different ways by different people, or if you've gone through things and feel like you've been humiliated or put through it, right? You're not alone. Most of us have been through things like that, and you might think that life is not fair, and it really looks and feels that way oftentimes. Everything, though, here's the thing, comes to us, even those tough moments, as lessons, and there's always very important things to learn in all of that when it's happening. I was reminded when I put this lesson together of a poem that I've probably been fond of for at least 25 or 30 years. Short. It's called Outwitted. I know Judith has seen it before, by Edwin Markham. Dr. Bill Tolliver used to quote it all the time. I'll say it twice because it's quick. He drew a circle that shut me out, called me a heretic, a rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. we drew a larger circle that took him in. So when they're trying to beat you down, anybody, or you're going through it, and people say sometimes the most horrible things and judge in the most horrible ways, it's really not about you when that's happening. This is just their outward projection of their inner pain and judgment and all that. Remember this poem, or look it up and write it down for yourself, called Outwitted by Edwin Markham. He or they drew a circle that shut me out. A heretic, a rebel, a thing to flout. But my love, right? But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a larger circle that took them all in. That's kind of like the consciousness of somebody like Jesus, right? They betrayed him over and over again, but he refused to be about hatred. He was always about love. To those that forgive them, for they what? They know not what they do. And that's even the people who treated him the worst. See, we don't see things from a spiritual perspective for the most part, most of us. Somehow, I don't know how, somehow we're able to dismiss people as unimportant. We walk by them like they don't exist. I can think of it even as I walk through the streets and everybody's asking for stuff, and I do my best to say namaste and acknowledge and all that, but sometimes I just don't. But everybody's a spiritual being, and we're living in a world in such a way that we're able to dismiss people as like they don't exist. They're undesirable, they're unimportant. And we're able to label them. And we'll judge them as being undesirable for whatever reason we conjure up. And we'll think about people in terms of negative terms. And here's the thing that's tough for a metaphysician. If you're here to learn that God is in everyone, right, all the time, that means God is in everyone and all the time. So I don't know what to say to that. I remember reading something that was attributed to Cher. She, of course, encounters thousands of people every time she does anything. And she says she always looks people right in the eyes and nods her head and acknowledges them rather than look away from them. A friend of mine, Pat Amy, probably 30 years ago, her little spiritual practice was, she says, I always smile to every person. I look people in the eyes directly and I smile, and or I'll say thank you or good day or something. She says, I won't miss the chance to acknowledge another person. So that's kind of like the namaste type of thing, right? I don't avoid and look down. New York is funny because New York is really, everybody's moving fast, looking the other direction, all that stuff. You don't see the smiles being given out readily, quickly, and all that. See, those are easy little things for people to do. It might not seem like a big thing, but it could be a big thing. If I'm here to express life, right? So I don't want to play small and shrink away and all of that. So just some questions to think about. So when people are doing their thing, most of us haven't yet learned to take the expression is, I don't want to take anything personally. So when people are trying to tear you down, or your relationship is going in a tough way, you're up against it with your parents, we take it personally and we retaliate and we play that game of getting each other back. That's not an elevated game, I can promise you. If you're really being about the Spirit's business, if you want to call it Spirit's business, in the old days they say your Father's business, you'd be doing it a different way. You'd have the compassion for them, someone like Jesus, where you'd understand. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. They're really doing the best they can, which is always what Louise would say. But sadly, most people, including a lot of religious science students, live in reaction to everything. We react to what people say, we react to what they do, we get on the phone, we call other people, and we're part of the problem, and we call ourselves truth students. And the thing is that I've sadly learned, or I don't know if it's sadly, but it's taken a long time, is when I'm judging people and I'm judging things, I usually have everything about 50% right. And sometimes I don't even have it 50% right. I got it partially right. And then I have my opinions, and they're very strong opinions. So how am I able to approach, say, Reverend Judith in a new moment, or Jimmy or anybody, if I'm running this story about them? I'm forgetting the goodness and the God of them, and I got this whole line of story. And how can I be in a new moment with anybody when I got this whole backstory that I don't even know is true? I don't know how much is true. So I'm making it up, and I'm listening to other people, and where's the enlightenment in any of that? So, really to practice this teaching as a truth student, you really become a bit of a metaphysician. You're developing what we call the mystic's eye. We're really seeing the God in people and in everything. And when we're doing that, we hear no evil, we see no evil, we speak no evil, because we know different. We know that we got something half-assed or half wrong or something, and we're a part of the mess. One of our former students was very, very fond of her. Her name was Mary. She said, "I don't want to be part of the mess." I used to laugh. I said, "What mess are you talking about?" She says, "Any of that mess where I'm in the story." And so that's a challenge. It's a problem for people. A lot of us are living our lives in reaction and in story. I do it, and as soon as I find myself doing it, I do my best to stop it. Stop, as we would say on Thursday night, stop in the name of love. As soon as you find yourself in it, use the teaching. Stop. Right there. I release the need for this. I'm going to go right back to the first step of treatment, and I'm going to recognize and know that there is God and that there is light and love, and this is the truth. And I'm going to look at this person I might be having a challenge with. I'm going to say this. When I'm thinking of Judith or Joe or Mary or Sue, this person is perfect, whole, and complete, an inlet and outlet of God consciousness, an example of divine love, and I'm going to see that, know that, and I'm going to know nothing else. So, because here, look, I'm not going to let them take me down. That's the song for today. I am glorious, and I know they are too. That's the practice. That's what we do. We're not here to react to life. A great teacher, Shelley in Florida, used to always talk every week, and ask the question, are you coming from connection? And we all say, sure we are. And then she very quickly in the next hour show us how we're full of beans. By that I mean she'd show us that we're full of stories, we're full of judgments. And she was a great teacher because she really illustrated to that entire group for a year or two that I was involved that we really want to drop those stories. If you're coming from connection, if you're really poised and you're coming from a calm, deep place of connection and knowing who you are, you're not going to be reacting to what people are saying and doing. You're going to respond, and you're going to do so because you're centered in this God awareness, and you're simply going to be kind of unflappable. Just because everybody's talking about the mess, you're not going to be going there because you're in a different place spiritually. So this is all part of the work we do. This is the work we do in consciousness. Most who attend our classes initially, our center, don't really understand all of it. They don't understand that, they don't understand that it's their perception that's off more than anything else. Raymond Charles Barker famously had that talk that you hear me refer to about, one Sunday, how to change people. And of course, the church was flooded with people because people want to learn how to change other people. But the teaching really, as you get to understand what we teach here, you understand that we're not here changing other people. We're here to change ourselves and our perception and our consciousness. We have a tendency to assess very quickly and to judge quickly and harshly. And we have a tendency, some of us, to quickly dismiss people. We see things as strange and wrong automatically, but we don't realize that that strange and wrong that I'm seeing comes from the stuff that I was taught from the time I was 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. We have this whole body of beliefs. We'll study the Four Agreements and books like that where you'll really look at how and where all those opinions come from. And they still operate in our beings, even if we're 40 or 50 or 60 or much older. So when we come into our teaching, we dismantle those old agreements and we try to set all of that aside so we can be free in new moments to see people rightly, to see people as whole and complete and beautiful. So, and here's the thing, when we're steeped in all of that nonsense and all that stuff and what's wrong, and if we're oppositional and we're all caught up in what's wrong and what's missing, there's always an opportunity in those moments for us to take a pause and to take a deeper look. You know, people get stuck on positions. If this were a recovery group or if this were a therapeutic group, we won't want to say it in church, we'll say people get stuck on stupid, but we won't say that here, right? Okay. People get stuck on positions, and they get dug in with their positions, where they hold on to resentments and anger for months and years. And this can be very disabling to you physically and psychologically. Our Sunday lessons, our Thursday lessons, I know what Solomon is doing on Wednesday, the programs of recovery all talk about the disease of denial. Some of you have never heard of that before. Essentially, that means I don't have a problem. It's not me. It's somebody over there. It's my boyfriend. It's my mother. It's whoever it is, it's got the problem. It's never, ever, ever me. So I used to laugh. And then there's a saying that goes in some of those programs, which is nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake. So it's all like playing out because of consciousness, right? And what can you do? You know, first of all, you don't judge yourself for being where you are, but you understand everything is God in action. Ernest Holmes, Louise, can't remember who said it now. We're each 100% responsible for our own thoughts. So if I'm spewing beautiful things, thankfully I've grown some, right? If I'm spewing a bunch of the mess, the story, then, you know, it's incumbent upon me if I want to change to get a handle on that. Every thought we think, or the body of our thinking, our thoughts, the tendency of our thoughts is creating our life. It's being mirrored back to us. Every Thursday, ask a question. What's it like being you? And it's only because I'm wanting people to start to reflect the tendency of their thinking, because the tendency of your thinking is really creating your life. But if you have this disease of denial, which means nothing wrong with me, it's all about you. Essentially, that means if that's the way you're operating, that you don't want to take any responsibility for your thoughts or thinking. See, the story here is not about who's right or wrong or who's doing something right or wrong. When you're in those places, you're stuck in some way about a subject. You're dug in. And if you're living your life that way, you're not living your life as a religious scientist, where we understand that every encounter is a holy encounter. You're living your life in judgment. And that's a very painful place to be living in. We all know people who live their lives in such a way. We have a couple people in our group that have come in, in recent times, and I know they're into a lot of pain because they're hanging on to a lot of resentments. And what's the solution to all that? There's a few ideas I was thinking of yesterday as I was trying to look at these notes. Some 40 years ago, when I was obviously much younger, and all upset about something or someone, I remember somebody simply telling me, "Greg, go help somebody." Because I was all caught up in what was going on, and I was really steeped in, somebody had done something, and it was very hurtful and wrong, and I couldn't get past just the anger of it all. And I remember this lady, her name was Winnie, she said, "Go help somebody." And I can laugh now because I didn't know anything about science of mind then. I think I barely knew anything about unity. But the suggestion was to not focus on the person or the situation that I thought was bringing me pain. Years later, one of my science of mind teachers told me to look away from these conditions. They were trying to get me to say that if I kept focusing on the problem, or what I thought the problem was, I was obsessed, right? I was focused on the problem, what people should be doing, and who had done me wrong, all of that. They were trying to get me to say, see, if I kept focusing on that, if I kept on focusing on what isn't happening and what isn't happening the way I want and what's wrong, then I was just going to create more of it. I was told, it was the introduction to metaphysics, and the whole science of mind movement comes from the transcendental movement. I want to look past all of these problems. I don't want to stay focused on the bad news. I want to look past the conditions and to know that there is good in operation always, that there is God here. Because there's always God here. The life is always actually a verb. It's always moving forward. And we can look at any part of it and judge it and stay stuck in a place of judgment. But life is evoluting through me and through all of us, and it's moving forward in a magnificent way. The same year, I had heard the phrase I just quoted, "Nothing, absolutely nothing happens in God's world by mistake." And I was beginning to understand that life was really more about learning lessons. Even the tough ones were not there to hurt anyone. So in that sense, things aren't happening to us. Rather, they are happening to bring us to a higher place of understanding. And then, of course, Terry Cole Whitaker's title of that great book came into my world. What you think of me is none of my business. I'm really here to evolve and grow. So I'm learning to be independent and be free of the opinions of others. Things happen, but things aren't necessarily happening to me or to us. There's no God above that's orchestrating anything, that's giving lightning bolts and punishments or even rewards. Everything is here for us, even the lessons that we are experiencing. So it's really good to ask yourself, in any given moment, say you're going through a day and you had an argument or things aren't going right, it'd be really good for you to ask yourself the question, what's coming up here for me? Why am I reacting to this? What's the lesson in this for me? See, if you go to the other thing as go towards what they're doing, you've already missed your opportunity. The better question always is, what's coming up for me? What's coming up for me that's causing this response? Why am I reacting this way? Because I have the ability to turn it around if I want to. I can put a circle of light and love around a lot of things. Remember Markham's poem. They drew a circle and they drew me out, a beggar, or this or something to flout. But God and I, with the wit to win, we can draw a larger circle and bring them in. So if you're in situations where people are being critical or, in some way energetically trying to tear you down, you can understand that they're operating where they are, they're doing the best they can. but you, connected, in connection, love, in God and I with a wit to win, we can draw a larger circle. And, we can know all as well. We, through this teaching, know people are doing the best they can with what they know, plain and simple. Everybody's evolving along. And you might not like it all where they are, but wherever they are is where they are. And it's taken them a long time to get where they are. You might find that unbelievable, but it's true. It's taken a long time for all of us to get where we are. So we want to extend that love and compassion. You can step away. You don't have to be in their path, but you can have compassion and love for their process. We're truth students. We practice seeing and knowing the truth. We knowing this kingdom is at hand. It's right here in this room. It's right in front of you, in your living rooms, wherever you're listening. The kingdom of God is at hand. There's another book which would say miracles, if you want to call them miracles, are natural. And when you're not experiencing them, something's gone wrong. And all that really means is you don't have the sight to see them, but they're right there in front of you. So open up your eyes. It's a question of perception. I could see God instead of this. I don't have to be a part of this discussion or part of this argument. I could see God good instead of this. The power of decision, which we're so fond of, is yours. Don't be part of the counsel of the wicked, which you're going to sit and talk about what's wrong with 5 other people, and it'll be like the blind leading the blind, and where do they usually wind up? Trouble, ditches, and such places, right? So we acknowledge we know life everywhere. People are doing the best they can, and we really celebrate it. Whatever step. Religious scientists, I was told when I was younger, every positive step you see somebody making, even if you know it's not, celebrate it. Celebrate it. Don't say not good enough. Please, stop that. Our power is inclusive. By that I mean it's inside of us. It's a presence. It animates us. It's keeping my body moving today, my thoughts, my brain going. The power, that animating force is inside me, operating in me and through me, and it is in everybody in this room and everybody on this call. This power is the home, today's word, diversity. By that I mean it's in every single person and every single thing on the whole planet. It's in people, it's in minerals, it's in animals, it's an infinite variety within, there's this presence, this infinite presence within this entire cosmos and everything that exists. When we're drawing smaller and smaller circles of judgment, where we try to make anybody less than us or bad, or we try to exclude anybody in any way who are different, in a way we're being blasphemous. That's one of those old words from my Catholic school. In other words, everybody's of God, right? And if I'm trying to talk that there's something less than that, then I'm blaspheming. It's blasphemy because, namaste means I see the God, the good, and what? You and everything. So, if there were a sin, we don't believe in sins here, but it would be talking negatively about people that are evolving and learning to love themselves more. Wherever we're judging some aspect of creation that we don't particularly like, the way it looks or acts, we haven't yet developed the capacity to love everyone yet. We haven't developed the capacity to understand that they're evolving and they're doing whatever they're doing the best they can. They say Jesus could do that. I read everywhere that he could love everyone. And he could do it while people were betraying him, right, left. He still could love them. You see, this teaching really asks us to step up our game, to see the good and the God in every interaction, every encounter, and in every one. Question, are you doing that yet? I've been working on that for a long, long, long time, seeing the good in people who I know, sometimes are really, they're trying to hurt. trying to hurt me, trying to hurt the practice. You've got to keep seeing the good. And the other thing from the 4 agreements is to take absolutely nothing personally. When the arrows are inbound, you understand, okay, here this person's doing the best they can with what they know. Turning the other cheek, having the willingness to forgive and keep forgiving. Knowing that these people that we love are where they are. And we're here to trust life, trust God, and trust the process of life. And we see the God. We actually think namaste, namaste when we see people, the divinity in everybody. We want to bless everyone. Whenever you think of anybody, try to have that spiritual sight that we spoke of today. And see, and know, not just see, know that there's God in them. And especially when you're thinking of yourself, especially with you, because we've got a whole lifetime of stuff where we don't think we're enough or good enough. Especially with you, bless yourself and say, I love, accept, and approve of myself. Stop yourself whenever you see yourself putting yourself down. Catch yourself if you can, wherever you're being judgmental about anyone else. Stop. Why? Because it's a mistake. Stop because you can do it a better way. You could see loveliness. That's a word from the Course in Miracles. You could see loveliness, you could see beauty, you could see peace instead of this. You don't have to be part of the mess. You can be part of seeing the God and the good in this person and all situations. And you can bring the awareness of God into every moment if you want to. The choice is yours. It's always given to you. Meaning, you have the ability to do that in every new moment. Every encounter, potentially, can be a holy encounter. In other words, you can be restored yourself. All the bitterness and pain and all that, if you could just set it aside, every encounter where you could drop all that stuff with some of the people you have, this history with or animosity, you could be in a new moment, which, the Course would say is one of the holiest places on earth, where you drop all that baggage and just be in that new moment and seeing the other person as a part of God and part of you. And then there's a restoration. See, all healing ultimately is self-healing. It's really always going to be about you. And in my case, it's always going to be about me, because we're living in a world, what we call divine substance or activity. We're living in the world where all of this creative energy is filled with divine substance. It's the reality. It's the truth. We can release the need to be critical of ourselves. We can absolutely refuse to talk badly about ourselves, starting here, starting now. I never. I'm going to criticize myself or release the need to. And this can be your practice. You can say to yourself today, I intend to see the good in myself. I intend to see the good in myself. I love, accept, and approve of myself. That was from Louise. And I intend to see the good in other people. And I intend to look at people in the eyes and at least nod and acknowledge them. See, if you're willing to do any of these things, great things are going to happen. See, if you're doing this, you're practicing the science of mind. You have advanced to the head of the class. And you understand that you are a being of consciousness. And you're experiencing God in all things and all people. And then you're also coming to a point where, look, I want to be about my Father's business or Spirit's business, and you might say to yourself, I don't have the time or the need for the pain anymore. I don't have the time to do the spin, to be involved in the story of what's wrong, what's missing in life, and who's wrong and who's right, because when you're coming to this place, you're living from this place, you're increasingly operating on a different plane of understanding. And the question is, can I do this? Oh my God, Greg's been doing this for 30 years and he's not even doing it perfectly. Can I do this? And the answer is, sure you can. The kingdom is at hand. All good is available right now, here in this moment, in this room, in your living rooms. For those of you who are listening this week, all of you, It's always here. It's at hand. It's in you. It's operating through you, and it's available right here, right now, and you can put a demand on it. If you take this teaching to a deeper level, or you practice it a little more, you'll be focused on seeing the good in people and things, and you'll be seeing the good in circumstances always. And in your meditations, you might think of this vast ocean of people in your meditations, and people everywhere. And you might let yourself think and know that all of them are expressions of God, and all of them exquisitely divine. You might think of yourself in those moments, and you might say, I release the need to judge them. I release the need to judge myself. I release the need to change anybody. I know that life is unfolding perfectly, and I release the need to judge. That's on the screen. I know that life is unfolding perfectly, and I release the need to judge. This week, for some reason, I noticed that there have been a lot of people coming and going. I mean, there's been some spiritual departures, is what I'm saying. And you know, there's a human sadness to that. From this plane of existence, one of our beloved board members, already mentioned, had a very severe medical event. And I'm really reminded, I've seen things with myself and my sister and our dear Jean, that life is going by very swiftly, and for all of us. If you want to know a method for slowing down time, I'll give you a little trick. I don't usually talk about this, but one of the best things, I think, is to deliberately plan on taking a pause several times a day. Because people live in, like, whoosh, your life goes by, because you're living in reaction to everything all the time. Now, that's not a religious scientist who's practicing religious science, but that's most Americans. It's like whoosh, because it's get up, the alarm clock is go, 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 go. And there's no time for inner communion with spirit. But you can slow down time. You can do it in different ways. There are ways. I used to be involved in a group where I think we did it on the half hour. We even set our watches. Every half hour, we're going to take a minute and get centered and know that I am one with the one. I am God. I am as God created me. This is God in my life. Something like that can be very powerful, because you're going to have these moments in a given day where you're waking up. It's kind of like you're coming out of the fog. That was really a powerful exercise. Why I stopped doing it, I don't know. But that's one. However your method is, where you find a way to deliberately take a moment and connect. And we tell yourself something to bring us back to this place. I used to like to say that whatever it is right now, this is God in my life. That's something I did in my 20s. This is God in my life. I would do that throughout the day. You slow down time by bringing yourself back to that reality. Or find some way to bring yourself to a place where you are present, completely awake and aware and present, aware. I used to know people in jobs that would go into the bathroom for 5 minutes, like 6 times a day, just to take a time out, so they could get themselves centered. Another thought, take time to bring yourself to a place where you're present, aware. You might say in that moment, I am one with you, thinking of the universe. If you habitually find a way to do this type of thing, you'll find that you're becoming more conscious. The more you practice this, the more you slow down, the more conscious you will become. See, a lot of us are too busy. I know some of you call it, busy and good busy and all that, but it's true. We're all busy. But it would be good to take this time. It would be very good to take this time. Find the way. Set an alarm clock. Do something. We all have, we have smartphones, smartwatches, and we can find ways to program that if we can't remember ourselves. I know if you practice this day in more and more, you're going to have glimmers of joy and peace. You're going to have conscious moments of gratitude. So These are all ways of you connecting yourself to what is real and to stop all the reaction. Jimmy sometimes talks about action, reaction, action, reaction. People are living in action and reaction. So we invite you to find some way to take a pause. If you were in any of the 12-step programs, they would have you do a morning prayer. They would have you do a 10th-step inventory at the end of the day, at least 2 times a day for reflection. I honestly think if you could do it 4 or 5 times a day, it would do you more good because it just brings you into the awareness of spirit. Sometimes I've had students who they love the teaching, they'll tune in on Thursday, but then they'll disappear for 5 months. And they'll come back and they'll say, oh my God, I've just lost 5 months of my life. So if you want to slow down time, find some time to do your spiritual practice. Find some time to connect with yourself so you can experience some joy, some peace, and get some inspiration, because Spirit's really always trying to get your attention. And as you do this more and more, as you get more involved and connected, I'm going to tell you, you won't be as interested in the drama and the stories that are swirling around you, because at that point you're really learning to live more from a connected and spiritual place. You'll still care about people, but you won't let yourself get caught up in all the drama, and you'll understand that people are working things out, and that'll always be that way. But I don't have to be part of the mess personally. I can't stop them from doing what they're doing, but I don't have to be a part of that. I can be part of, I don't want to always say my Father's business, but of a higher, I can be part of a higher activity. Because as we do this, we'll be in a different place, though we'll still be here. I recall one of my last visits with my father one afternoon. I thought of it yesterday. He had a beautiful home, and I drove up to see him every week at least. And one afternoon, he was sitting on a couch outdoors. There was a veranda, gorgeous day. And we were having one of our usual discussions, but I really recall him, because I was talking about business. I remember him talking how beautiful and blue the sky was. And I paused, and I thought, what the hell? You know, he was caught up in talking how beautiful and blue the sky was. And I understood at that moment that he was communing with nature in a way that I hadn't noticed in a long time. He was engaged with me, but there was just a little bit of detachment. He was just there somewhat blissing out just in the experience of communing with. It was a beautiful surrounding, and it was a gorgeous day, but I wouldn't have noticed those blue skies or those flowers or those trees or anything. But he's there like communing with it. And here's the thing. It's just as available to all of us, right? But he was actually living in that. And I thought, God, man, I want to do that a little bit more, right? And I was sensing, as I was watching, just a lot of appreciation. It was one of those moments you'll never forget if you see it. And it's a place I can go to, and we all can, if we want to. So we want to release the need to be in the mess. We want to know that the skies are beautifully blue and that all is well. No matter what the doctor says or your friend tells you or any of that stuff, you have the ability to see wholeness. You have the ability to see health. You have the ability to see prosperity, because you are a part of all those things. So it requires a simple shift. They can all think what they want to think. You think what you think. Bring yourself back, because you're really the only person who can do it for you. And you might say to yourself, I'm one with all that is beautiful, wonderful, and generous. I release the need to be critical and judgmental. I choose to practice and realize the presence that is unfolding everywhere. Everything and everyone is part of this one life, and it's connected with me. You could say that to yourself. If you're excluding people and you're rejecting them, or you're hanging on to resentments, then you're forgetting the teaching. Our teaching calls for us to see this divinity in everyone. And we're lost until we remember, right? We're truth students. We intend to remember who and what we are, And we intend to practice this in looking at everybody. We don't know bad people. There is no bad people in our consciousness. And it's our strong intention today to practice this. And I affirm it for all of us. We intend to practice seeing the God, the good in all things all the time. And know that everyone is a spiritual being. When we act poorly and we judge and we exclude one another, we are betraying our own identities and we find ourselves feeling alone and unhappy. We ourselves are cutting ourselves off from the flow of life. We are meant to be glorious, as the song says, but we forget. We teach that each one of us is on a sacred journey in the discovery of our true being, of who we are. And we must have a lot of patience, right? Because we mess up, right? We make mistakes. As soon as we mess up, we bring ourselves back. Because we're all operating at our own speed and our own level of knowing. We're all involved in a journey, and it's always been described as a journey without a distance. So we've got all of this stuff, and we have to bring it within. Each one of us in this lifetime is on our own personal journey of self-discovery. The thing I'll ask of you today, which I ask of myself, and I'm reminded by Jean recently, and a couple of people who passed away this week, don't let your life pass you by without expressing love and appreciation. Just don't let it happen. There's that old saying, don't die with the music still in you. Wherever there's an opportunity to express love, forgive, be the first to do it. Why the first? Because you can. If you've got the consciousness where you can do it, do it. The other person may not be able to do what you can do. Do it. We are here to be practitioners of this great teaching. We who do it are here to develop insight into all these questions. We believe that this energy is a presence. It's inside of all of us. It's running through all of us. And there's a power that's sustaining all of life. We have described it as universal mind, presence, spirit, intelligence. It's the origin of everything. It's in each one of us. It's divine. Each of us are outlets of it, of this great power. Each of us are unique representations of it. Each one of us is the great I am in action right here, right now. My God, there's so much more. So I'm going to wrap up with Dr. Holmes here, because this could be 2 lessons. When you use the words I am, you're declaring the truth of our being. I am spirit in action. I'm a center of divine consciousness. And all that God is, I am. All that God is, I am, as an individualized expression of the one life. Ernest Holmes tells us there's a power and a presence which we may turn to, which we may use, and that will always respond to us. The only thing we need to do is to learn how it works. I've told you all before, you've got this enormous account with unlimited good. So all you have to do is just to learn how it works. So stay with us. We will teach you how to do affirmative prayer. We will teach you about the power you possess and how to use it. Louise Hay would say it's all very simple. We will never make this teaching complicated. We will make it accessible to everybody and affordable to all. This great power and presence is an eternal indwelling thing that's inside of each of us. Each of us are centers of consciousness, forever at one with our source, incarnations of the universal. We are here today to begin a creative action in consciousness, to manifest a new you. So we're here to practice and keep seeing the good and beginning to express it. And I'll close only by saying each of us are here in the express business. We're here to express more and more of who we are each and every day we're alive. We live with change, and we learn here to have positive expectancy. And we know that life is giving us all green lights, and everything that's happening is happening for us.